Hi everyone here and around the world on this November 20th, 2024. It's a week before Thanksgiving in the U.S. But no matter what country you're in, I hope we can all ask the thought that dwells in the light to protect Earth and bring real and lasting peace to all humans. I also have the good news that this Earthfiles YouTube channel has broken through 280,000 subscribers, thanks to all of you. Yesterday, Tuesday, November 19th, Space.com headline, quote, Pentagon UFO office testifies to U.S. Senate today, November 19th. Watch it live on YouTube, which was yesterday, beginning at 4:30 p.m. Eastern and other time zones. The Pentagon witness was Dr. John Kozlowski, now director of the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office in the Pentagon, also known as AARO. Sadly, it was more a Pentagon political rebuttal to Congressional Representative Nancy Mace's important UFO-UAP hearing on November 13th, a week ago. One of the November 13th witnesses, second from right in this swearing-in photo, was Michael Shellenberger, co-founder of Breakthrough Institute and California Peace Coalition in Berkeley, California. Mr. Shellenberger released at the November 13th congressional hearing this large, many pages official U.S. government document that had been leaked to him. It's Section 1, an Unacknowledged Special Access Program, or SAP, is entitled Immaculate Constellation, a satirical play on the Christian phrase Immaculate Conception, referring to the Virgin Mary being free of original sin at the moment of her conception. The secret classified program's primary mission is, quote, collecting imagery intelligence on unidentified aerial phenomena, UAP, UFOs, of anomalous aerospace threats that originate from foreign or unidentified sources, close quote. Congresswoman Mace posted several pages for viewers to read for themselves at this URL in gold. This URL will be posted in the Earthfiles chat and comments, and go and read the whole thing. Immaculate Constellation is an unacknowledged secret special access program, or USAP, established following the public disclosure of the ATIP OSAP programs by Luis Elizondo in 2017. Upon disclosure to Congress, it was determined that this USAP, or USAP, and its collateral information have not been lawfully reported to Congress. From 1991 to 2022, orb spheres were the most common UAP shapes reported in this Immaculate Constellation dataset. In addition to discs, saucers, ovals, tic-tacs, triangles, boomerang, arrowhead, and irregular organic shapes. The triangles, boomerangs, and arrowhead-shaped craft are the rarest seen and reported, while spherical orbs are the most common. Quote, while performing a routine airspace surveillance and control mission, an F-22 fighter pilot noted multiple metallic orbs, each about 14 to 16 feet long, hovering in place. Upon vectoring toward the UAPs, a smaller formation of the metallic orbs accelerated at rapid speed toward the F-22 jet, which was unable to establish radar locks on the presumed hostile UAPs, despite multiple evasive rolls and maneuvers by the F-22. Surrounded by the presumed hostile UAPs, the F-22 was forced out of the mission area under the escort of the UFO UAP formation, Close quote. This man, who lives in the beautiful mountain forest south of Roseburg, Oregon, knows a lot about very large and small UFO silver spheres. His name is Danny Adair. He graduated from Roseburg Senior High School in 1975 and went to work in an Oregon sawmill where logs are cut into lumber. Since 2009, Dan has seen and often reported to me seeing silver UFO spheres, some small and some bigger than football fields. He says have landed on the ground, or he has seen them in the sky over the large mountainous Umpqua National Forest in Oregon that grows for 100 miles east of his home. Now 69 years old, Dan Adair has also encountered near that forest some strangely dressed humanoids that he associates with the UFO UAP silver discs and spheres. But his very first encounter with a round silver metallic sphere goes back to 1957, when he was a toddler with his older sister playing in the field behind their Oregon house.
Mom always told us, play out in the field, but just don't go so far that I can't see you. Well, late summer, August, probably early September, my sister and I were playing out in the field when there was a 3 feet in diameter ball that came down out of the sky, and it landed on the ground in front of us. And my sister immediately said, ball. She ran up to it, and she started to try to push the ball. So this was a silverish metallic sphere. Well, she tried to push it. She could get it to rock back and forth a little bit, and then she wanted me to help. So I walked up and started pushing on the ball, but then it became fixed to the ground and it wouldn't move. We couldn't get it to even budge. And then my sister wanted me to help push her up on the ball, so I gave her a push, and then she sat up on the ball, and then she slid off of it. Then we started helping each other up on this 3 feet in diameter silver ball, and sliding off of it. We were having fun. I wanted my turn, and she said no. She actually slid off of the ball, grabbing both hands on her butt cheek. She said it stung to her.
Meaning something like a bee sting. She's saying something has stung her.
Yes. My sister's now walking towards the house, holding both hands on her butt, and she's going up towards the house, and I look at the ball, I look at my sister, because I wanted my turn, and I started running to catch up with my sister. As we get up to the house where the back porch is, my sister just let go, just bawling and screaming. Mom came out to the back door and said, okay, what did you do? And my sister said that she got stung. So Mom pulled her shorts down, checked her rear end, and said, well, I don't see anything. And then my mom said, you kids go back outside and play and watch out for the bees. But it wasn't a bee that stung her, it was a ball. But we went outside, out there where the ball was, but it was gone. So that was the very first time that something unusual had occurred, not only to me, but also to my sister.
When would be the next age and event that would involve these same similar 3-foot diameter silver spheres?
The next event happened when I was around 10 years old, riding a bike, and we came upon a huge sphere, estimating between 75 and 100 feet at least. When we saw that thing, it started moving close, approaching us. The rest of the kids got on their bikes, took off, and I stood there. I had both hands on the handlebars, 1 foot on the pedal so that I could take off. And it just kept coming closer and closer and closer, and then it just stopped just short of the fence that's on the side of the road. And it's massive, and I started having this sensation of being dizzy. And so that's when I took off. And I managed to catch up with the rest of the group. And one of the guys asked me, what was that thing? I couldn't answer because I had no idea what it was.
But it was like what you had seen with your sister at age 2.
It was the round silver ball bearing, but this one was massive. Compared to the 3-foot diameter one that me and my sister played on,
right.
This one was huge. It's as if somebody could take a perfect ball bearing and just enlarge it to 75, maybe 100 feet in diameter, hovering out in front of you. That's what it would be like.
At that moment, when you were standing in front of this massive ball-bearing type craft, so much looking like what you remember at age 2, but so much bigger, did you get any images or numbers or symbols coming into your forehead?
The only sensation that I got was overwhelming feeling of being nauseous, dizzy feeling coming over me. And that scared me. I already had one foot on the pedal, both hands on the handlebars, and so I just lunged forward on the pedal and took off.
When is the next interaction with something in this UFO category in which you do get some kind of communication in symbols or telepathy or whatever?
My oldest sister got a car, her first car, and we were out front washing her car, and my sister says, "Oh, look." And we look at this mountain that's right across the way, and there were like 7 disc-type craft that passed over the hill, one after another, just zoom, zoom, zoom. They were so quick.
And where were you?
In 1972, Roseburg, Oregon. In 1974, and this was close to the end of August, before the high school year started at Roseburg High School, I took my dad's pickup and I drove up into the Umpqua National Forest, and I went to a place where there's a trailhead to hike into an area. That was the first time I ever had face-to-face interaction with ET beings.
What age?
16, 17.
Give as much description of the extraterrestrial beings as you can.
When I get to the trailhead, you drive up this gravel road a long distance, and you come out to a trailhead. I parked, I got my pack on, and I started up the trail. It was early in the morning. The sun had not come up over the mountains yet, so it was still not bright daylight yet. I started walking up the trail, and I come to steep switchbacks. I had just rounded a steep switchback on the trail, and I went no more than probably 20, 30 feet, and I just got this sensation to look behind me. And I turned, and right where that sharp corner is on the trail, standing off to the side, was a man. And this man didn't look like any kind of a man I'd ever seen before, because he had a metallic cap on his head. He was wearing a very tight-fitting that seemed to form to his skin.
Like a leotard.
Yeah, really tight-fitting. And he was wearing what appeared to be either sunglasses or maybe goggles, is what I thought at the time. And then I stood there watching him, and I thought, in the Oregon Cascades, even in the summertime, in the mornings, it is cold. Sometimes it can drop down freezing or even near freezing overnight in the early mornings. So I had a sweatshirt and a jacket on. And the first thing that came to my mind was, it's cold out. So why would this guy be wearing nothing but this thin clothing, this skin tight? I mean, I'm having to wear a jacket and a sweatshirt to stay warm. And then another thing was, the sun has not even come up over the mountains yet. So why is he wearing sunglasses or goggles? And then I was looking into his eyes or sunglasses, and then I began to realize, well, wait, those are not sunglasses. Those are not goggles. Those are his eyes. That's when this strange thing was going into my mind. It was like I didn't understand what this was, and I turned and I started walking up the trail, and I did maybe another 12, 15 feet. I turned to look back at him again, and I stopped. This stuff goes into my mind. I was wanting to go back to my truck, but there's no way I could get by him. So I just went further. Then I turned and looked at him again, and he hit me with stuff in my head, and it was like I didn't know what this was.
When you say you get hit with stuff in your head, what do you mean?
It's like images of something. Like if you close your eyes and you try to mentally recall what an object was like, but you're wide awake, your eyes are open, and that's going into your mind, and it's like overtaking everything in your mind.
And this is telepathy from this extraterrestrial being to you.
Yes, but I had never experienced anything like that before. you get scared when that happens. You don't understand communicating that way.
Mm-hmm.
But I then turned and I walked back up the trail, and he was gone. I continued to go on up the trail, and I got to a point where I just can't tell you why I did it. But I took my pack off, I set it down by a tree, and we're talking about big fir trees. I took the pack off, and I started walking up the little hill through the trees, and when I got to the top, I could look down and see this real large, high-elevation meadow in the forest. And there in front of me was a huge sphere that looked identical to the one I could remember back when I was 10 years old in California. Around it, at different elevations, were a total of 20 spheres altogether. The one in front of me had a beam of light coming down into the meadow, the grass, and there was another one up from it that was also hovering low over the meadow, and it had the same beam of light coming down. And there were men that looked just exactly like the one that I saw on the trail. My attention was focused now on the craft that's in front of me. And these men that are walking all around, and they were dressed the same way. In late August, the wildflowers have gone to seeds, and they were harvesting seeds. One of these guys looked at me, and I looked at him. From the distance, we were making eye contact, and then all at once, all those other the members of the crew stopped what they were doing, and they all instantly turned and looked right at me. They just had this extra sense to know that I was there.
Well, they were all telepathically connected in their minds together.
Yeah. And when one could sense something that could possibly be danger, they all sense it. I asked them, what are those things? What do you call those things? And he hit me with that telepathic communication that was clear. He invited me to come aboard. That was the ship that was out in front of me. He was inviting me, asking me if I would want to come with them and come aboard the ship. And I actually told them, yes, I will. I'll go. I didn't know what these things were. I just knew that they were strange-looking men. Their bodies were uniform in height. Their faces were pretty much different, like humans, some variations in facial features, but their bodies were uniquely perfect. The muscle tone, it wasn't like bodybuilders, but I mean, their bodies all had very nice muscular tone, seemed to be the same height. So they were like genetic perfection.
And this year, in April of 2024, Danny emailed me, quote, recently in April, there have been ET visits, followed up within a day or two by low-flying and hovering military helicopters. There was even a military jet circling over my place. Back in 1974, those ETs that came in the silver spheres did, quote, communicate to me that they were gathering seeds as they would need to reintroduce such life back onto this planet Earth. They said, quote, their kind and many other ET non-human races had introduced or reintroduced life onto this planet 27 different times before now because of various disasters such as volcanoes and ice ages. Danny Adair told me, quote, the huge sphere ship, maybe 100 feet in diameter, blew me away in its construction, as there appeared to be no seams, rivets, screws, nor welds. Looking around the area where the sphere ship was landed, I got to see it really close, and I wondered, how could anything like this have ever been built? And then, when I was taken aboard the 75-foot to perhaps 100-foot sphere ship back in August of 1974, there were no windows visible from the outside, but inside, the huge sphere had large viewing screens that were all around it that provided a large open window type view of the outside. And Ian, I know that you and I at conferences have talked with people who have tried to describe that what was solid, like solid white or solid silver or some other color, but usually white or silver, that it is as if it's a one piece, all constructed, but with windows. And this is not the first person who has said that they have seen what looks like some kind of equipment or these digital screens that we might recognize as looking at the Earth and being projected some way back to us in one of these huge crafts. The images live, like a live broadcast on TV, but that is the mechanism of overseeing and traveling an area on Earth. And I really do feel that Dan Adair has been for a very long time. He says it goes back to when he was a little kid and he's now 69. That the non-humans, in some way or another, have been in his life this whole time, off and on. And he feels that they are, in fact, concerned about Homo sapien, about Earth, and that this will be yet another, perhaps the 28th time, that they have come here specifically to try to help life, all Earth life, because of events that could unfold in the future that so many people, from remote viewers to people in the abduction syndrome and others, are very worried that there may be a really bumpy time in the future. And if we could open up all of this and all learn together the real truth about these beings and why they are really here and what it is that they are here to gain, we might finally come to that real handshake. I'm a being and you're a being and we're in the same universe. Let's talk about who, what, why, and where we're all going. It makes me feel excited, but I also understand that it's difficult for a lot of people to accept, after so many centuries of lies to the general public by people who did know that other intelligences are throughout this universe and that there probably are more universes that are also filled with consciousness. And consciousness, that's the barter of the cosmos. So Ian, do you remember, I know that you and I have talked about that, the idea that there were not windows as we think of windows, but some kind of electronic screens that were receiving or getting images of Earth into craft above, as told by some people in the abduction syndrome.
That's right. It's important to compare these accounts where people can actually report these, especially the screens, etc.
Right.
And going back to the actual orbs themselves, I remember back in the 1990s being shown a really clear picture of a metallic orb. There was no denying it, but hovering over Avebury Stone Circle in England, which was taken by an experiencer who had experienced many things in his life, but he actually took the photograph of the orb at that historic site in England.
Yes,
so,
and the spheres,
significance.
Ian, it's like going into that immaculate constellation and that grid of all of the different shapes. It is so true that there are so many different shapes, but they seem to be on some kind of a bell-shaped curve where there are a lot more of the metallic spheres going all the way down to things that there are only a few. And it's fascinating to look at all of this through David Adair's mind, that what kind of craft and technology are the big silver orbs that can be 100 feet, 150 feet, or up to, he thought they might be even bigger than that, which would be getting up to the size of a football field, all silver metal and hard to comprehend.
That's right. We're not sure exactly what the physics is that's involved in the craft, but Nelson Armour is in the chat this evening and says, my guess is the sphere is a boundary inside a probe from somewhere else, possibly another dimension. What else would explain it shrinking away? And they do have the ability to shrink themselves away or to change their shape as well, or their sort of density as well.
Well, what is the mood and reaction in the chat to this particular voice coming from somebody who started reporting to me and sending me photos all the way back to 2009? And he's always been very reliable and always trying to understand and break new ground. What is the general feeling about this particular story and the sort of unique, and Danny would say the same thing, a unique alien that seemed to have this hard, perhaps metallic embed in the top of its head?
The mood in the chat is very good. We've got people who are sharing their own experiences, which is, again, another good thing we always have here, is people who share their own experiences. And Mark Zierhammer says, once I saw what appeared as liquid metal or mercury very high in the sky near New Mexico. I was not alone and pointed it out to several others there. This description of liquid metal or mercury as well is probably one of the best ways people have described the actual metallic spheres that they've encountered.
Like a drop of mercury. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's right. In Ashburn, Virginia, writes Nelson Armour, I watched with binoculars a metallic sphere move in and out of a chemtrail as it followed a commercial jet. The sphere hovered, shrank to a dot and disappeared. That's interesting because that also shows the perhaps interest in our own aircraft. I don't know if any other people here can, in the chat or watching this, can remember the very early 1970s, I think it was, film of Concorde on a test flight. That was a Concorde jet that was on a test flight.
Yeah.
When an orb drops down below Concorde at the same speed, but then rises up and hovers by one of the windows before shooting off. And that shows the intelligent intent of the craft and the maneuverability, and again, the interest with our craft. It takes us back as well to the Foo Fighters back in the Second World War, photographed and observed by both sides and in the Pacific and European theatres, of orbs' interest in our craft as well, our own craft.
But it raises this heavy, big, huge question always. What is the intent of non-human A, B, C, D, E, F, G? What is the intent of Homo sapien, we'll say power brokers around the planet who may have knowledge? If there are extraterrestrial biological entities with artificial intelligence that have had programs involving our planet and perhaps the genetic manipulation and creation of the bloodlines of a variety of humanoids that have been created on this earth, of which we are a recent model, if they have not had an intent to destroy, damage, harm in the scheme of consciousness destroying versus consciousness building and resurrecting, those are two huge paths. And right now, we feel like humans themselves have put themselves into some sort of a possible bind over the issue of nuclear war, for God's sake, over the power brokers and drawing territorial lines on the earth. If the non-humans really do care about us, if they have been here 27 times or more, if they have reinvigorated a variety of life forms because of other destructions by volcanoes and ice and the various changes that this planet undergoes and other planets probably of some variation do too. And that one of the things that extraterrestrial intelligence are already and always involved with is how to sustain the life and consciousness of entities, beings, and others on various planets in various solar systems for reasons that we might not understand, but that they send a signal that there is concern for life and that they will be trying to help. Up against that is the fact that we have not had any honest, real picture of the true history of this planet in relationship to other intelligences presented to Homo sapien. And today we're struggling at a lot of levels in a lot of places, trying to open up what the truth is after so many centuries of not having the truth, that then those in power feel that they have to do it gingerly and it's a step forward and 3 steps back. Instead of, if we are coming up against a dangerous time in the evolution of this planet, and that there are power brokers who know that, and that there are non-humans who care about us for reasons that are still not clear, but that they do, and that there is an effort to protect the life, not just Homo sapien. Think of the millions and millions and millions of life forms on this planet. The idea that something could come and devastate, it makes me want to cry. So if everyone from ETs to artificial intelligence to Cro-Magnon Homo sapiens sapien would like to have an affirmation, a confirmation that what is happening is not to hurt anything, but to help everything survive what might be difficult times for reasons that are not exactly clear, but that they happen on some kind of a cyclic or other basis. Why not have everybody have the whole truth? And that might strengthen this effort on the earth for humans to be trying to help the earth evolve with them on it in health and prosperity, instead of being blind and not understanding anything and evolving down a road that will go nowhere. That seems to me to be sort of 2 options if we don't get past this hurdle. And on that note, even though it's variations of things that we've all talked about in the past together and in the present now, I would like, Ian, for you to give me a feeling and give our other viewers a sense of what have been, if you've seen any comments by people who themselves think they have physically been taken into a sphere, and what was the experience like with the beings that they interacted in a silver sphere, if that exists in our viewers tonight.
Yeah, let's put it back to the audience tonight. Join us in the live chat and let us know if you had a close encounter with a sphere that actually involved being taken aboard a craft. It reminds me as well, do you remember we covered the story as well, we revisited it in 1979 in Detchmont Woods in Scotland, where Robert Taylor, the forester, was actually grabbed by some metallic spheres who actually tore his trousers, and I think he had a missing time episode at that time as well, when his experience with the spheres seems to have been quite a rough one. But Diana Nahigan in the chat this evening says, I believe that many individuals such as Dan and myself who've had close contact over a lifetime want to come to the conclusion that the aliens are trying to help humanity. I'm a realist.
I do too. I do not think of the people that I've interviewed, which have been at least a few hundred out of the more than 3,000 people covering so many facets for the last 45 years. But when you are talking to some people like Danny Adair, who have only had provocative, fascinating, helpful interactions with beings, he's now 69 years old, and it started when he was 2. So the idea that we don't have any guideways, we don't have anyone telling us this is who these are, this is how they're helping, here are ones that they're trying to block, if you just accept that there may be different reasons to be here, and they might not all be friendly, but that the friendly ones, Dan has said this to me many times since 2009, the friendly ones really do care about humanity. There is some kind of a vested interest. They want to see us evolve and grow past war and destruction. They definitely are gatherers of seeds that are distributed, that they are gatherers of other materials on the planet to try to keep things going. Wouldn't that be wonderful if we knew that all ETs were in that category? But lacking that understanding or confirmation, it still gives me a feeling of warm heart that Danny isn't the only person that I've talked to. There are at least a couple of hundred other people out of the 3,000 or so that I have interviewed, and that they have felt that there really is some focus in some of these consciousnesses to help. And always is the sad question, if that's true, why can that not be introduced by human power brokers, and we all come together learning and moving forward in the future, perhaps finally overcoming the need for any kind of violent war as is happening on the earth yet again. And that has always been sort of, I guess, my beacon, my feeling that in all this work that I have tried to understand so many of the complex facets, it has not made sense to me that very advanced intelligences would want to be wiping out Earth life, or any life, in anywhere. And if the tronoloid insects are in that kind of category, it sounds to me like, through the aerospace sources I've talked to and Danny, that there are definitely very advanced extraterrestrials, non-humans, whatever you want to call, who have very advanced technologies. They can jump dimensions. They can manipulate time. And if everybody was working together to evolve, just imagine how exciting it might be. So hanging on to that, Ian, what was your own greatest interest in what Danny Adair was sharing with us tonight?
Well, I've been focusing mainly on the chat, so I'll have to go and revisit that. But one of the main interesting things is the very detailed description that he gives of the being. And that is incredible in itself. We're not familiar with this type, but it does emphasize the sheer range of beings that are seen. And sometimes we do have reports where we only have one or two reports, and we find those of us who are very familiar with the databases going way back of experiences who have had close encounter contact. It's sometimes these are beings that we've not found that people have reported or encountered before. But again, it adds to its authenticity in many ways, because if someone was making this up, then they would perhaps choose a more regular type that is seen. But this is a very unique type and seems to be, again, perhaps a very benevolent type.
And I would like to think that I am a credibility supporting witness, because Dan Adair has been communicating with me since I've gone back to the 2009 emails. And there's the consistent just trying to share what it has happened where he is in the Oregon forest, what he has seen when they come, photos and various things that he keeps trying to get. And there are so many people who very genuinely over all of these decades have tried, almost as if you were saying, what do you have to do to convince an extraterrestrial that we humans might be worth struggling for, no matter how much we are, as a world, being manipulated into the position that we are not supposed to know anything about other life in the universe for reasons that are not clear, but that the power brokers keep that as the reins on evolving humans. And now I think that Danny Adair and others I've talked to this year even that have been longtime abductees, they feel that it is definitely now, it's way past the will it happen stage. That even though there have been some people in aerospace and others have said, it's not up to us, it's up to the extraterrestrials on the timing of when they will announce and make themselves be part of our existence. If that's true, I can't think of a time that would be perhaps as good as this one, with some war on our planet that could escalate, and everyone's afraid of nuclear war, at the same time that there are environmental factors that seem to be changing in our planet, maybe whether we were here or not. And that in our being able to know as 8 billion species, 8 billion people on Earth, the truth. That truth might change and strengthen everything. And so to keep pushing it off because no one knows has always seemed kind of ironic to me, when it's knowledge, it's the truth. It's that card that says that the moon, the light from the moon and the light from the sun cannot be kept from us any more than eventually the truth. Now, we're at a time where there are a lot of changes, and I'm really wondering if there's anybody in the chat tonight who has had a sit down or a face-to-face with a non-human, and that you would like to be able to talk with me to let me know if you have had like a real face-to-face discussion, somewhat like Danny, but his was still with groups. There are some people in Australia, I think, who actually have had sit-down discussions with a tall white or a Nordic or something there, and it's quite fascinating to talk with them. And what I'm getting at is, are there changes that are taking place? This is Chocolate has showed up. He's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful being. Are there changes that are taking place on the Earth in terms of non-human intelligence interacting with us that we might not know about? And on that score, Ian, it is the issue, I think, to ask everyone if they could let us know if there are interactions with ETs. Can they do an illustration of them, so we could develop our own sort of library of what is happening? I've got chocolate sitting on Ian's grapefruit. Shut it off. Oh dear. Now, Ian, are you there? Chocolate.
I am.
Chocolate.
I don't know what happened.
Yeah, chocolate sat on your grapefruit and then something went off.
Oh, that was what it was. Okay,
Yeah.
I thought I was disconnected, but we kept. We're monitoring any technical problems here, but it was chocolate. That's
Yeah.
okay. I just want to say that Lisa Savoy she's been in touch with us many times as well. She's from Canada. She's got a book to her name, and she's an experiencer. She says that she has been in a sphere craft multiple times, but her experiences in them were not pleasant, unfortunately.
Which type? Which type was in the sphere?
Okay, Lisa, can you give us a little bit more information in the chat and on those specific events that you've had. I was going to say as well, we share somewhat disappointment with the hearing, the latest hearing, the senator hearing. Capkins says, "Did anyone see the guy sat on the left of Kozlowski after the hearing? He leaned over to him, looked like he said, 'Well played.'" What did he mean, well played? Do you think that was a possible scenario?
Oh, it was absolutely theatrical. I was being polite when I said that it was, sadly, that what they did yesterday was a deliberate rebuttal on the part of the Pentagon against the men who were telling the truth on the 13th. And that's been going on, that struggle between AARO projecting essentially untruths, trying to have people in the Pentagon stay in lockstep with the whole point of view that, by God, they're not going to tell the truth about ETs and UFOs from here till hell freezes over. And that is exactly what Colonel Corso told me in person and wrote about in The Day After Roswell, having to do, and it was his word, the internecine warfare in the Pentagon back when President Eisenhower, or General Eisenhower, was president. And that internecine warfare was destructive and self-destructive, but kept a power hold that has echoed to this day of 2024. That same control over everything. And some people in aerospace and military who have talked to me privately face to face have said that sometimes they themselves have wondered, why did the United States from World War II on take a very metallic meaning firm stance that no one was to learn anything outside of highly secret rooms, highly secret, today's skiffs, about anything. And that was to a great frustration to Lieutenant Colonel Philip J. Corso, because he and others, he told me about a trip that he took to Fort Riley in Kansas. He was told that to ask to see one of the extraterrestrial biological entities that they were preserving at Fort Riley. Colonel Corso talked to me himself about how he got there, whatever the code words were. He was taken to one of the hangar buildings. He was taken into a room that had what looked like rectangular boxes, a variety of sizes of metal and other, and that he was taken to one of them. There was a pullback of some kind of a canvas on this, and there was a being. It was not human, and he saw it, and they wanted him to see it. And he writes about it also in his book, but he told me and talked to me in more detail than he writes in the book. So he was one of the infrastructure that knew precisely that there were at least other beings that were not Homo sapien, that were, in this case, was at Fort Riley, and that later on, he told me, there were other beings that were put in underground facilities in the Wright-Patterson territory. And I've heard the same thing about Eglin Air Force Base in Florida, and we've all heard about S4 and on, that the underground of the United States is probably the area where, if we really wanted to know what all the truths are, good, bad, and neutral, everything seems to be deep underground, deep in mountains, to be protected from anyone knowing what's going on. And I personally feel strongly that unless we live on a planet of truth, I can't imagine how we can continue to evolve as a species in a civilization without this huge truth being known to everyone. Now, we are coming down to the clock at the bottom, and Ian, I'm wondering if you could comment to the viewers and to me, was there something tonight in Dan Adair's story and illustrations that surprised you as a person who is also deeply, deeply knowledgeable?
I'm going to go back and revisit that. It's worth a second look at the testimony. But what's also important is it's a multiple witness event, and also, as you mentioned, he's consistently contacted you over the years, and I have my contacts as well who I've known for years. They're trustworthy sources of what's happening to them, and we're glad to be on their journey as they also experience ongoing contact. I think that's very important to maintain that. And regardless of what is said in these hearings, and the word abductions or experiences is not even mentioned. We're just still scratching the surface.
Right, and animal mutilations.
The mutilations.
How far are animal mutilations?
We're just about getting to crash retrievals. These are the difficult parts, the crash retrievals. But hey, what about the animal mutilations, and what about the actual abductions and the various ET agendas and the experiences? The key to this mystery.
And Colonel Corso,
a lot of our own information from.
Yeah, if Colonel Corso were here, he would say, I was understanding that in the early 1950s. Come on, Earth, get up to what the rest of the universe knows about. It is strange.
Yeah, it is. There's a big disconnect there. I wanted to mention about the upcoming conference appearances, Linda. First of all, we've got this conference coming up in February in Los Angeles, the Conscious Life Expo. We're going to be posting up information on that as we go into February. And we've also got a link that I'm going to put into the chat this evening and in the bottom of our description below our video tonight, where people can get their tickets directly. And we look forward to anyone who's able to join us and share with us in interesting discussions, face-to-face discussions with us. And we'd love to see you at Conscious Life Expo. Come up and see us and say hello.
Yes. And one of the important pieces tonight is that Congresswoman Mace made that link so that everybody could go and read the Immaculate Constellation. And I feel it's really dense reading, lots and lots and lots of words packed into those pages. But as I have been reading, I feel that it would be so important if every person read everything that they had access to in the Immaculate Constellation, knowing that that is making a play off of a serious phrase. And what else could we learn if we not only read all of it together, but all of the references that would continue to branch out from reading through this dense document of information? That is what I have found in the last 45 years of trying to get to the bottom of animal mutilations and human abductions, and what does the government know, and why are they covering it up, and why would anyone be controlling an entire human life civilization on a planet to the point that they wouldn't know the truth about other consciousness being universal through this cosmos. And now we know that there are probably other universes, other dimensions. It keeps getting more and more complicated and sort of exciting at the same time. And that reading deeply, which is circling back, that we put that link in tonight's show, and everybody keep coming to that so that they can get the big document pages that Congresswoman Mace made available. And out of all of that, there probably will come deeper and deeper requests and guidance in terms of what should we be looking at that we have not seen yet. And would there be a definition of an enemy to humans if there are tall whites, Nordics, species we don't know anything about, here also trying to help us at the same time? It's like a paradox that our encountering consciousness now finally in the universe through documents that are hidden about secrets that are kept, that we're not alone in this universe and never have been, but that for some reason that is still not clear, the power brokers of Earth for centuries have always turned knowledge about extraterrestrials and other life forms into huge secrets. Why would that be a pattern? What is it about being able to travel in the universe, jump dimensions, manipulate time, go from the Earth all the way out to 50, 100 light years in seconds because you can jump dimensions? Why wouldn't that be something to share with the whole planet always? And the fact that secrecy is always used, even now, is really profoundly troubling. And for those of you who are here tonight and may be working in some subjects or some challenges, whether it's military, medical, physics, something, that you have information that you feel should be out, I would like to hear from as many of you as possible through Proton Mail, which I have been using successfully for a long time, and find also the physical U.S. mail works for some people. I would like to say in this new era of at least hearings going forward, if you have information that you feel is important, please get in touch with me. And I try very hard to always protect any sources and still work with concepts and report firsthand testimonies that would help all of us understand what is actually happening on Earth with us humans, with other intelligences that might be a startling range of types. And the very fact that today there was an announcement that the James Webb Telescope has discovered 3 red galactic, whether they're universes or galaxies, but they're 13.8 or 12.8 billion years old, and they are astonishing to the scientists who are studying through the James Webb, because, my gosh, we thought that we were in the only universe. We thought we were the only intelligence to know about the Big Bang. Well, now it turns out that the question of the Big Bang is one universe. How many universes are there? Wow. I mean, we're beginning to be pushed in a lot of directions. And the one thing that I can say from all of the various emails that I have gotten and post letters from so many of you is that you, who are writing in many ways from your own experiences, that you are frustrated that it isn't all open because you would like to have the excitement of being in a room with a lot of fellow humans and maybe some ETs, in which telepathy or sound, however it's going to be done, that being able to communicate species to species eventually could be one of those exciting breakthroughs that suddenly the earth changes like that. And we're in a cosmic, what would you call it? A cosmic evolving space where just being human and finding out what our real background is could be one of the most profound shifts in the human soul, spirit, and matter that would get us beyond wars, beyond suicide, to the evolution of human consciousness with human souls and finding other life in this universe and beyond this universe now, other consciousness. To me, it's incredible. And I hope that we will begin to see doors open that are positive and not afraid, and that you are always, always protected by the thought that dwells in the light. Love you guys. See you next week.
Turn on closed captions for YouTube videos by clicking the white CC button on the lower right. The default language for Linda's videos is English. If you would like to see the captions in another language, click on the white settings button next to the CC button. Select Subtitles CC, and then select Auto Translate. Select a language, and the captions will now appear in that language.
Sort of gone through, and they will hold their heads. I never had a cat do that before. And they'll pull against the comb, helping me get out snarls. And I think it's the best they've ever been.